Picasso. I'm the Director of Marketing at Jet, and I'm responsible for growing our iOS and Android app user base. Today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about some of the lessons we learned launching and scaling Jet almost 2 years ago. So before you do anything, it's really important, whether you're launching a brand new app, a new feature, a new marketing campaign, it's really important that you have all the right tracking in place to measure performance before you do anything else. Several months before Jet launched, we knew this. We made a list of all the tools we would need, and we made sure we had solutions in place for attribution, analytics, ad servers, etc. And we also spent a lot of our time doing due diligence on vendors and negotiating contracts. But what we didn't think as much about was how all of these tools would work together. So I would encourage you all, this brings me to my first lesson, treat your data like an ecosystem. You probably all know by now that the mobile industry is very fragmented. There's a lot of separate tools for everything, and a lot of solutions only work for mobile apps and don't work across platforms, so they don't work on both app and web. And so even though we implemented all these great tools, what we found pretty quickly is that we had a website with 30 pixels and a mobile app with 10 different SDKs. And because our data was fragmented, we couldn't actually act on any of the data that we were capturing. And in particular, our mobile app data was in a silo. And so we took a step back and we thought a lot more about our data infrastructure. This slide here gives you an idea of how we stitch all of our data together now cross-device. So I'd encourage you all, if you have a lot of pixels, a lot of SDKs that you're planning to implement or you already have implemented, think about a tool like mParticle to consolidate all of your third-party integrations and allow you to pass data more easily across third parties into your own internal data warehouse. The other big challenge we had early on is that our data wasn't easily accessible to everyone. So even though we had all of this data available to us in our data warehouses, we didn't have the right tools to pull all of this data out. So this brings me to my next lesson, which is democratize business intelligence. When Jet first launched, the entire marketing team would actually pull reports directly from SQL. We didn't have any tools layered on top of our internal databases at all. And the problem with this is that we didn't actually all know how to use SQL. And so what ended up happening is if an investor asked us a very simple question about LTV, it would end up consuming our entire day. We would be stitching tables together, copying and pasting queries, and we weren't focusing on actually changing any of these metrics because it was taking us such a long time to actually pull the data together. So I'd encourage you to first define the metrics that matter most to your business. Make sure that those metrics are being tracked and that they're clearly defined, that they're easily accessible to stakeholders, so that any stakeholder who's looking at metrics on a daily basis has a dashboard that's built out so they can constantly be monitoring the metrics that are important to their business. And lastly, make sure that the metrics are actually actionable. So we talk a lot about conversion rate at Jet, but often sometimes when we look at conversion rate, if you don't actually if you're not actually looking at the metrics that drive conversion, it's really hard to make an impact. You might say, okay, well, conversion today was 4%, yesterday it was 3%, but if you don't know actually what is driving that through the entire conversion funnel, it's really hard to make incremental changes. So when we finally implemented the right tools, we actually ended up implementing Looker. We hired dedicated analytics resources and we offered training. That's really important too. Make sure you train any new employees on all of these tools so that they can hit the ground running. And once we did all of this, our entire marketing team functioned a lot better. The team moved a lot faster, and we empowered people to answer questions about their business and actually make an impact on their results. Now, after you've set up your data infrastructure, which is really the boring part, you're ready to start focusing on the fun stuff, which is actually marketing. And before you start thinking about paying for installs, which we all know is expensive, make sure that you take advantage of the free stuff first. When Jet first launched, we actually didn't allocate any marketing budget at all to the iOS and Android app. So we had a massive marketing budget, but we didn't have any budget at all for app acquisition. We really just weren't sure what role the apps would play in our business. And so our team had to really focus on being creative with all of the organic channels that were available to us. And so here are just a few of them. If you have a mobile website, make sure to have app callouts throughout the experience. Rather than just using a plugin banner that Apple and Google offer, we partnered with a tool called Branch that allows us to customize our banners and interstitials by audience, track these users post-install, and also, most importantly, deep link the users into the relevant content they were viewing on web after they install the app. So if you're on the baby shop, for example, on the mobile website, if you install the app, you want to make sure that you're still on that baby shop when you actually install. Another great free marketing tactic is ASO, which I know there was a bigger workshop on later. So I'll just speak to one of the changes we made in our App Store listing that really made a big impact. Early on, when we first launched Jet, we had terrible reviews. And after digging through a lot of these reviews, we realized that some of them had nothing to do with our app experience at all. They were really more order related. So people were saying like, hey, I didn't get my order, it's a day late. And the frustrating thing about this is we actually had no way to respond to these users. And so what we did is we added feedback buttons and help buttons all over our app to give our customers a clear outlet for help. And then also, after checkout, if the user made a purchase, we prompted them to write a review about us. So if after they checked out, we still have this actually, a happy face and a sad face. And we'd ask the customers, how did you feel about your experience? If they click on that happy face, they'd be taken to the App Store where they'd write a review about us, likely a positive one. And if they click on the sad face, they were actually taken to a feedback email, which allowed them to actually, it's more efficient because it allows them to actually get help from our customer service team much faster than if they went to write a review about us. And that simple change it drastically improved our review volume, but it also improved our score from about 2.5 stars to well over 4.5 stars. And that alone increased our conversion by over 30%. And so if you can increase your conversion on that App Store listing page, you can make all of your marketing that much more efficient. Imagine if you double your conversion on that page, then your CPI is cut in half. Another big driver of downloads is email. So we use email to prompt users to download the app. We have footers in every single email we send that just reminds users that we have an iOS app and an Android app. We also send dedicated emails regularly with app-specific offers. We try to introduce specific features of the app to tell users, for example, this is the easiest place to reorder all of your everyday essentials. Also, if you want to make sure that users are continuing to use your app, it's really important that your emails are deep linked enabled so that you continue to drive users back to the app when they have the app. Lastly, use push notifications to send personalized and relevant communication. Push notifications are an opportunity to strengthen the relationship with your users and make your app sticky. But make sure it's risky, right? If you send too many push notifications, you risk losing your users. And so it's really important that your communication to them always adds value. So we try to send push notifications about the user's order, for example, or alerts around a sale that might be relevant to them. It's really important for push to be super personalized. So if you happen to know, if you have data on what the user's first name is, I would encourage you to use that in the push. Now, when you do start spending money, stay focused on scaling the biggest channels first. At Jet, when we started spending money on the app, I wanted to launch on as many networks as possible. But what we quickly found was that launching a lot of networks at once is really difficult to manage when you have a small team. And each individual network wasn't actually driving a lot of volume, and most importantly, it was really hard to learn anything when we had so many different networks running because we didn't have time to actually look at the data. And so rather than being a mile wide and an inch deep, we decided to focus first on Facebook. We put together a 90-day testing plan to try to learn as much as possible about the best audiences, creative, landing page, campaign mix between app install and app re-engagement for the mobile user. And from there, we were able to take this formula that worked so well on Facebook and apply it to other networks like Google, Twitter, Apple. And so over the past year, building up from that, we've slowly been layering on additional channels, which isn't always easy because even though you want to scale quickly, it's really important to understand how incremental each network is. Which brings me to my next lesson, focus on incrementality. As we've started layering on additional channels, incrementality has become increasingly important to us. First, it's important to make sure that you have a very clear understanding of the relationship between organic and paid activity. watch out for marketing tactics that might cannibalize a lot of your organic traffic. And we found this in the past that we'll launch campaigns such as we'll launch a branded search campaign, or we'll bid on keywords that we actually organically rank on anyways. Or even we'll launch a retargeting campaign that's going after users who've added to cart or viewed a product. And the problem with this is, with some networks, if you go out and just cookie bomb all of your users and you actually hit every one of your users with a retargeting ad, you end up driving a lot of conversions that might look like they're performing really well in that network, but what you're actually doing is just cannibalizing your organic traffic and giving credit to networks when those conversions probably would have happened anyways. So it's really important to pay close attention to how your paid marketing affects organic activity. I have this last little segment here, unknown publishers. We found this in the past too, where if you launch with a network where there is no network transparency, what you'll find too is a lot of times those networks might look like they're performing well, and so you'll say hey, I guess I don't really care what websites they're running on, it's performing really well. But then all of a sudden you'll see your organic activity is completely dropping. And that also often is an indication of fraud. So often there's click bots out there that are mimicking clicks. And so your organic conversions that are happening are looking like they're paid conversions, even though they're organic conversions. So that's something you should pay very close attention to. The next thing you should think about when you think about incrementality is marginal spend. So it's very important, especially as you're scaling really quickly, that you understand the incremental impact of each dollar you're investing. So I have this little equation here to give you a simple idea of what I mean by this. So at Jet, we focus a lot on our primary metric is cost of acquisition. Let's just say we have a goal, a target cost of acquisition of $40. You'll see that when we start spending, we're really efficient. We're at a $20 CAC. Then we start spending a little bit more, spend another $20,000, and that spend is a little bit less efficient. Now we're spending $27 on a blended level, but that marginal CAC to get those incremental new buyers was actually $40, but we're still within our range. Then when you add another $20,000, what's interesting here is that your marginal CAC, the CAC of that extra $20,000 was actually almost $67, which is outside of your goal. And so where it gets confusing is if you look at your blended CAC, $33, you're still within your range, but that last $20,000 wasn't actually efficient. And so it's really important to think about each dollar because you might actually make totally different decisions if you realize that last $20,000 could have actually gone to a new channel that was at a $20 CAC instead of a $66 CAC. Now, it's important to drive awareness of your app, but it's also important, we know that it's important to acquire users that are going to use your app often. And so how do you figure out who these people are? And now this is going to be counterintuitive, but I would suggest actually casting a very wide net at the outset. When Jet went live, a little over a year ago, we had no real information. So we had thousands of customers shopping, we had a beta site up, we had thousands of customers shopping, but the audience was really skewed towards the tech community and really not representative of the broader US population at all. And so we decided to cast a wide net. And we rolled out a national awareness campaign across channels like TV and out of home, and also direct response channels like search. And the goal was to really just gather as much data as possible, and we did. After a few months, we had millions of customers and a lot of data. And we knew that these customers were not all created equal, and the spend that we were spending was actually probably inefficient. And so we took a step back and we asked ourselves, who are our best customers of this entire group? We quickly learned that our best customers were moms in their 30s and 40s. These moms were not only spending the most money with Jet, but they were demonstrating the exact type of behavior that we were trying to create at Jet, which is building bigger baskets to save money. So just to give you guys an idea, the typical e-commerce basket size is 1 or 2 units. So if you're thinking about Amazon, for example, they're all about trying to get you to buy that item you're looking at as fast as possible. Just a little bit different. We're trying to get you to build these bigger baskets to be more economical and save money for doing that. What was interesting about these moms is that they were stocking up on consumables for their household. So they're coming to Jet, they're buying their groceries, they're buying diapers, and so their average basket size was actually upwards of 8 units per order. And so not only were they demonstrating this exact type of behavior, but it was self-reinforcing because they were getting the most value out of Jet, because as they built these bigger baskets, their savings was increasing. And so after gathering all this research and analysis, we landed on this specific target customer, this primary household shopper, that we knew would get the most value out of Jet. And we decided that we wanted to reposition our brand towards this loyal audience. So this is just this slide is just to give you an idea of sort of the transition. We went from this messaging early on that was like, oh, Jet's here, save on pretty much everything. We sell millions of products. You can get, come to Jet and save on everything you buy. And we moved that messaging, and although subtle, we moved it to this messaging that's really more around saving on your everyday shopping list. Come to Jet, all the stuff you're buying at Target or Walmart, come to Jet, buy all that same stuff and save money. So once you've landed on your target customer, the next question you need to ask yourself is how to attract this customer. So the first thing we did after this big customer research project was to break this audience into smaller segments to be more efficient. So rather than going after a new mom segment on Facebook, which is an out-of-the-box, a very expensive group to target, pretty much on any network, we divided this audience up. We took our own first-party data and divided it up by category. So we take a group of high-value pet buyers or a group of high-value baby buyers, and then go off and try to create lookalike audiences off of this. And we'd be very targeted with our strategy as well. So this is just an example here. We'd upload a list of our top baby customers, create a lookalike audience in Facebook. We'd target that customer with baby-specific creative. We would then drive the user to the App Store listing, and we decided to invest in a couple of key categories. So if you go to our App Store listing now, you'll see that we're all in our App Store, everything from our screenshots to our description mention some of these big strategic categories, these big consumable categories like pet and grocery and baby. So when that baby user lands on our App Store page, they see baby popping out everywhere. Then after the user installs, they're deep linked into a page that's a baby shop. So they bypass the homepage altogether, and it feels targeted all the way through. So even though we're going after this broader mom customer, we still tailor our marketing towards a specific category to make it feel relevant to that consumer. So to wrap this all up, here's my 7 lessons. Treat your data like an ecosystem, democratize business intelligence. When you start marketing, take advantage of the free stuff first. Scale up with turnkey channels like Facebook and Google. Focus on incrementality. And then when you're thinking about segmenting your audience, start big, start really broad, cast a wide net. And then lastly, position your brand towards your most loyal audience once you figure out who that is.